is January 31st. Okay, let me hand it back to Peter so that he can tell you about the other grants for faculty.
Thank you, Jane. And actually, while I'm sort of walking us through the end of our presentation, Jane is going to work on the questions, and it seems like we've already received a number of questions from you. So let me continue now with the grants for faculty. Couple of grants I'd like to point out, the first of which, as you can see in the slide in front of you, is the research grant. And Jane has already talked about that a bit as far as the graduate students are concerned, but this also applies for those of you who are on faculty. And they're for periods of 1 to 3 months. They cover all disciplines, and the funding is actually quite healthy and generous. It's between 1,800 and about 2,200 euros per month for the length of that stay. Deadlines are coming up. We have actually 2 sets of deadlines for those, the first of which is in November, the middle of November, and the second one is the middle of May. Another interesting thing for those of you who are on faculty is the group study visit. And for those of you who are organizing short-term study abroad programs for your students, you can actually receive some seed money to help you get a program like that off the ground if you're going to bring a group of students over to Germany to explore a specific academic theme in conjunction with a local host university or institution, including interaction with their faculty and students. And you can see the criteria in front of you. Again, it's not going to subsidize the whole trip, but certainly 9,000 euros will help you get that program off the ground, and we have 3 deadlines for that program. This other slide, I think, highlights a very, very interesting program that we offer, and I referred initially to our sort of bilateral work with Germany, and I think this certainly illustrates that commitment to working with and from Germany, for that matter. And this is funding available to help you both as a faculty member, if your university wanted to bring over a faculty member from a German university, and vice versa. If a German university with which you work wants to bring over one of your faculty members for a period to lecture, there's funding through DAD for both of those programs. If you are bringing a German over, then you have to apply on his or her behalf, and of course then similarly, if you're going over to Germany, then somebody from the host institution in Germany needs to apply on your behalf. Deadlines are there, as you can see, for the German Universities for North American Scholars, the visiting professor, that's in January, whereas for the short-term lectureship, for you to be a host here in North America, in the US and Canada, we have quarterly deadlines. I think I'm going to very briefly talk about an item which not only concerns applications for our funding, but most of you are applying for funding from a variety of sources, whether it be Fulbright, whether it be Rhodes, whether it be Watson, et cetera, et cetera. And so this slide, I don't think is sort of typical just for DAD. I think it's something that can apply for anything that, as I said, any funding source that you have on your radar. Most important is your timeline. Yes, of course, there is that exception who, in the span of 2 days, can put together an amazing application. But usually the lead time is quite important in any scholarship for which you apply. And that means you really need to be aware of when the deadlines are, because often they're at least a year before when you want to physically be, in this case, in Germany. So keep that in mind. Also work with professionals on your campus if you're a matriculated student, that most of your campuses probably have, if not an office, at least a faculty member who's responsible for scholarships and can help you vet your application and your essays to make sure that they are actually in top form. And as far as the application itself is concerned, academic strength, of course, is clear. But you really need to express in your letter of intent why you want to go to Germany, how that stay in Germany fits in with you academically and or professionally. If you're going to be hosted in Germany, you need to have some sort of invitation letter, some sort of letter to substantiate the relationship that you're developing. If you're an undergraduate and applying to a study abroad program, often our or if you're a graduate student applying to a graduate program, often our deadlines are not in sync. So what I would suggest is that if you apply to us and the scholarship is our scholarship deadline is before your application deadline, that's okay. Just submit some sort of proof that you're applying to the institution at which you want this grant. And don't forget, of course, recommendations, etc. And as I already mentioned, please utilize the people on campus. And also feel free to call us if you have any questions. So here we are, just to give you some, here's our contact information. I'm going to leave this screen up as Jane unmutes Juliana so I can bring her on and we can have a brief conversation with her before we go to your Q&A. As you can see, that's our contact information. We also have, Jane has mentioned, the DAD website. That's daad.org. I should also say that a number of you may not be U.S. or Canadian nationals. It doesn't mean that you cannot apply for our scholarships. Some of them do have requirements of nationality. Most of them do not. So that means as long as you've been matriculated in a degree program in the U.S. or Canada for at least 2 years, if you're, let's say, an Indonesian national or a British national, you can still apply through our office. As I said, double check the requirements for most of the programs. That's not true. If that's true, I should say. If you are, you find that you can also look up where we have an office from the country you're from, if you're not from the US or Canada, and then feel free to go on our DAD Worldwide website, and that's very similar to our URL. It differs slightly. It's dad.de, not .org. So, Juliana, are you on board with us? Can you? Can you hear us? Great. So, thank you. I think we're going to take the next 5 or 10 minutes, 5 minutes or so, while Jane is compiling some questions, just to talk to you a bit briefly about. Maybe you can just say, first of all, where you're studying in Germany and what you're studying and why you chose to study in Jena.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Juliana and I'm a student at the University of Jena. My major is English and American language and literature, so more literature I would say. So why I choose Jena? Actually because it's not far away from my hometown.
Which is what again, Juliana? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Halle, but Halle has a university too.
Okay.
And it wasn't far away, and it seemed to be a nice place, and they had the major I wanted to make.
Okay, and you are going for a Bachelor of Arts, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Maybe you could talk a bit about sort of what a university of life is like for you. Maybe first looking at sort of the academics, how the semester is structured for you, and then perhaps then talk a bit about sort of extracurricular, what happens outside of university life for you, and where you live in Jena.
Okay, where I live.
I start with the academics.
Okay, the academics. Well, we have a normal schedule, like everyone has, so we have to do that on our own. So we have to look for the courses or the modules we want to make, and then we have to get them in our own schedule.
Okay.
Like any others, we have to write papers or we have to write exams. It depends on the module we have to do.
So for each module that you choose, and this is a very new system in Germany, you will receive some sort of what we call the ECTS, the European Credit Transfer, but you receive credit based on what is required of that module, and each module means you might have to do a paper or take an exam or both. Is that correct?
Yes, that's it. Or sometimes we have to do a report or something in class.
So you have to give an oral report.
Yes, but in general it is like we have the exam at the end of the semester. That's normally the case.
So that hasn't changed since I studied in Germany, where you had the big exam at the end. And do you have an advisor, or let's say you have questions in terms of what you should take as far as your degree? Whom do you talk to about that?
About what?
The requirements